you guys seen it recently?
Well, we saw it on the big screen 10 years ago at the Toronto
At the Toronto
anniversary
Film
for our 30th. And I've seen it in the last couple of years, yeah.
So it's clear that the whole production process, this was not a normal movie. What you guys experienced with this young director, Lawrence Kasdan, this was not how most movies are made in pre-production. What was different about this one?
Well, we had 4 weeks of rehearsal, which is unheard of for a movie. I've never had that before or since. Have you, Tom?
No, it was a little bit like doing a play. And with all that dialogue and stuff, I remember my agent saying, an ex-agent actually, saying, it's nice. No, he was good, don't get me wrong. But he said, it's nice to see a movie with lots of dialogue. And I said, well, it was kind of like a play.
Yeah, it was grown-ups talking to each other.
It was, and Larry Kasdan, our director, really wanted us to become an ensemble before we went to Beaufort and started shooting in the house. He wanted us to get to know each other, to play with each other in character, we did improvisations, and it was so much fun.
And it wasn't just, you weren't rehearsing at the house or in Atlanta where the flashback scenes were shot that then ended up.
Well, we did that later.
You did that later, but
Yeah.
the first 2 weeks was this, you're
In LA.
locked in a room.
I called it a think tank at the time, but it was a rehearsal.
Yeah, and what was that experience? That was reading through the script?
No, it was, it
We didn't- it was a script for the
improvising, literally creating our relationships as they had been when we were in college.
Yeah, kind of making up past lives for ourselves, so we had all the subtext behind us, and everybody kind of gelled and understood what that was. Then we did improvisations within that, I suppose, and then finally says, okay, it's time to learn the dialogue, which we did word for word, like you would have played.
And he was a little like Alfred Hitchcock in the sense that what he wrote on the paper, that's pretty much what he wanted you to say, yeah? What he and Barbara Benedict wrote on the paper.
There were a few little changes here.
He didn't, I mean, we couldn't improvise once we were shooting. He wanted the lines as written, and with good reason. And he, sometimes directors will say, oh, well, add a whatever you want, or no, he didn't. But he wasn't that rigid.
Yeah, and when we rehearsed it, particularly in the house, because there were outside locations around town, etc. But when we rehearsed it, we blocked the scenes like you would on stage in the theater, and they put marks down for each character, and they had settings for the lights. And when we came back, we went to Atlanta for a week, and when we came back, all that was set. It's like we walked on the stage, all the furniture was there, all the props were there, everything was set. And the lights were hanging on grids across the room, and there were marks on the floor. It was one of the most organized things I ever worked on, and I mean, 1 hour of overtime, I believe, the whole shoot.
But some of those days, well, I want to get to, you're in Beaufort, right? Some of those days were pretty long. A lot of scenes, like 4 scenes set around the table, eating. And
eating scenes are always hot.
Yeah, well, tell everybody what's so tough about doing scenes like that, isn't it?
Well, because you have to match.
Yeah.
When you're eating, and the next setup, the next shot, you have to do exactly the same thing that you did in the last shot. So every shot you have to repeat exactly what you did.
And then they need covering shots of everyone reacting to what everybody just said. So I mean, one scene, 4 minutes at the table, that might take.
You have to work all the way around the table, and besides maybe doing each character, you also get twos. Right, do twos.
And you learn not to take big bites. Because you're going to be eating over and over.
You use your napkin to wipe your face a lot.
So what was clear is that Larry wanted you guys to bond, and then your independent streak and dissatisfaction with the hotel ended up fueling that that camaraderie that you guys got? What did you leave
Well,
away from Tom?
it was, and I remember everybody's going, well, where are we gonna stay, or where are you gonna stay, or where are you gonna, and I'm like, I'm not worried about that. And they go, well, we wanna be in town right next to the set. And Larry, of course, did, because he's a director and has to be there, and, you know, first guy there in the morning, usually. But, I had talked to John Reed, the Teamster captain, and he goes, they got these great little houses out on an island, out on Harbor Island, faces the Atlantic Ocean. They're built right on the sand. And they're kind of elevated, and they're really cool. And it's like you're just out there alone. And I went, ooh.
And this is the off season, so they're empty.
They're off season, right, empty. And so I went out and got one, and then Bill O'Hurd said to me, he goes, where are you staying anyway? I said, well, I'm out on Harbor Island. They got these great little units, and, you know, they're available for rent and off season. He said, I'm going out there. So he moved out. I don't know who was next, but it was.
And then we all moved.
And then finally, yeah, everybody moved out to the island because we couldn't be apart. We'd spent all this time doing improvisation, think tanks, and, you know.
We were tethered to each other.
So, and like,
We were afraid to be alone.
Kevin Kline, Jeff Goldblum got a place together, and all three, what?
Yeah.
Glenn and Mary
Yeah,
Kay
then
and I
Mary
got.
Kay, she was the last one to move out, but she
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
She couldn't stand it. Yeah. And then her brother came. He played the South Carolina State Trooper, and he moved in the house with her. I go, how's that going? And he said, she's driving me nuts. I go, well,
And then-
you should have done that.
And then Larry moved out with the whole
Larry and the
family.
family,
Yeah.
yeah. And he moved out. I guess he wasn't very close to the set.
It
But
was great.
I remember like poker games, charade games, and
Trivial Pursuit.
Trivial Pursuit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I caught Jeff Goldblum cheating
And charades. Did I say charades? Yeah, charades. Yeah.
at charades. Yeah, he
Charades.
cheated. He was looking. I looked at. We're playing charades. He goes to the bowl that has all the things you act out, you know, and he starts reading them all. He said, Jeff, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm looking for the one I want to do. I said, yeah, but now you've seen the answers to all
The
of
end.
them. He went,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
This was a nice time capsule, because I heard in a documentary, Glenn Close, who wanted to be here, by the way, that she brought Trivial Pursuit down from Canada, where I guess she'd been working, and it had yet to be released here in the United States. So you guys were like Trivial Pursuit pioneers.
We were, and we were nuts about the game.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
We became
Yeah.
addicted.
So I take it then that does that make a difference? That camaraderie that he sought so badly, that he forced effectively in Los Angeles, then happened organically in Beaufort or on Harbor Island.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah,
it
and
really fed our relationships.
I mean, somebody asked me, what is the theme of the movie? I hate those questions. What is the theme? I go, friendship. And I guess, you know, with friends or family, you can finish sentences for other people because you know what they're saying before they say it, even. That kind of feeling. I think that's what he was going for. Right?
Yeah, and I noticed that you did interrupt me an awful lot. No, we had fun. It was freezing when we did that outdoor kiss scene, but
Yeah.
we managed to do it.
Yeah, we got through it somehow.
You mentioned, Tom, that sort of, well, first of all, I love this too, that Larry was so insistent, Lawrence Kasdan was so insistent on maintaining this notion that you guys are, you know, fused together. You're fairly broken people, but fused together. That even on days where there would just be scenes with like Kevin and Glenn, you guys couldn't leave.
No, he called everybody, every day, whether
Just-
we were in scenes or not.
Just to
Yeah.
putz around the house, waiting.
No, so we could get really grumpy, basically.
But there was one time, I remember, like, we did these little videos. They did videos in the movies, so we did these little videos for a Christmas party, and John Reed was taking the Teamster captain again. I don't know.
Your best friend.
Yeah, he's like interviewing us, kind of like we did in the movie, these little interviews on camera. And he said, so what about, I go, well, I'm always in the first scene of the day, and then I'm in the last scene of the day, and I have to hang around all day, and I go, it's like, I'm bookends, I'm the bookends of this film. Yeah, I don't know.
Did now I read that almost everybody wanted to play, or at least many of the characters, many of the actors, were actually interested in other parts. Like both you and Glenn wanted to play which part?
Well, we both wanted to play Mary Kay's part. I mean, I said to Larry, I didn't know Glenn wanted it then, but I said to Larry when he cast me, I said, I think I'd be much better as the lawyer trying to have the baby, you know. I just don't, he said, look, I wrote this part with you in mind, so this is the part you're playing. I said, okay. And then I found out that Glenn Close said the same thing to him.
That's right.
She wanted to play that part.
Yeah, because she thought, she sort of played a mothering type in World According to Garp, and she thought she was getting pigeonholed into the same part. But then when a director says, I wrote this part for you, yeah, and your hands are tied, yeah. Were you happy with that was the part you wanted?
Yeah, I was fine. I went in and read for Larry, and he goes, that's perfect, that's great. He says, don't change a thing. I go, don't change a thing, we're just beginning, you know. Don't change a thing. I mean, what do I do? Just do it like you did it. Okay. But it was kind of strange because I'm playing an actor.
Right.
And that is the only time I think I played an actor.
Was Magnum PI on the air at that point? It's got to be.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
By '83, yeah.
Yeah.
You got the mustache.
Yeah,
It's definitely, you're leaving it into like
Like that.
sports car,
And they made you jump over.
Cowboy boots.
cowboy boots, yeah.
They made you jump into
Jump
your
in
car,
the
jump
car,
over the
yeah.
door.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Did you have?
Do you remember the stunt guy that jumped into the car? They put him in the same costume as me, and I want to think it was you. I could be wrong. Kept coming up, and you put your hand on his shoulder, and you started talking, and then you turned, and it was the stunt guy.
Oh, that
That
probably
was you, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
and
he was
I
talking
think you
to
did that 3 times. I mean, he was a hell of a good double.
He was.
It really was. And I mean, with the costume on, it kind of helped.
So you.
No, actually, I just had a crush on him.
Therein lies the truth.
So are you telling me that you, Tom Berenger, actually never jumped in the car?
No, but I gotta tell you, you could have done it. You could have done it. I think just about any.
Right.
Well, most of the people in here could have done it.
But what's crazy is
But the hardest thing was faking
failing.
The failing,
The
yeah.
failing part.
Yeah.
But I saw what is clearly an outtake, because it's not the shot used in the movie, of the stunt guy jumping in the car. And to your point about confusing the two, I mean, I saw it, but it wasn't.
No, I was trying to see only
Is there some chance that he's here right now?
He's with Kevin Costner.
If I had a twin brother, I'd let him do these shows instead of me.
Split the money? Yeah, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. I was interested, Tom, backstage, you were telling me that idea of bringing the actors together, that Oliver Stone did something similar on Platoon.
Yeah, Platoon, we had, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks jungle training. It was intense, and major sleep deprivation too. We probably had like 3 hours sleep a night, and we were really cranky, mean, tired, pissed off, but we learned everything.
Where were you shooting? I forgot.
Philippines.
That's right.
Yeah.
And,
In Luzon, and that's an interesting story too, because we're shooting in Luzon in the Philippines, and we're there, and then one day, Charlie and I are kind of standing there having a smoke, watching the lighting guys, electricians pulling the cables up and whatnot, and he says, "Look at those guys over there, Berenger." I go, "What?" He goes, "They're staring at me." I go, "Hey, right they are. Why?" He goes, "I don't know. I think maybe they recognized me from when I was here as a kid." I go, he says, "Apocalypse was shot here." I said, "Oh, well, these crews, I mean, some of these guys are like, they're older than us, and And I said, probably the same guys, right? Filipino crew guys. They seem to know everything about shooting war films in the jungle. And he says, yeah, that must be it. And I said, my dad was here too. I was on. He said, what movies was he in? What? What movies was your dad in? I go, Charlie, my dad wasn't here.
That wasn't a movie.
Werner, he was here in a tank in World War II and the liberation. The real war, Charlie. Oh. Hollywood kids.
I like that we got to that.
Yeah, that's funny.
We got to show the movie, but I do want to get a sense of where the movie, how the film has affected your lives, and at what point, you know, I'm curious about that. I mean, you guys must get tired of answering questions like this, but it is interesting to me, and I think to others, if there's any sense during the process, or even immediately after, that you have made something that is going to matter to people for 40 years, you know, that resonated to the extent that it really strikes people and it's going to remain an important cultural touchstone.
You know, I think it was interesting because Big Chill was turned down by 7 studios.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody wanted to
Wow.
make the movie.
Too much
It was too
talking
much
and
talk
too
and
many,
no action, you know.
and too many lead characters, right?
Right, and finally Johnny Carson's production company agreed to do it. And so we had no idea. The studio did not think they had any kind of movie on their hands. I mean, they thought it was a little, you know, maybe it's charming, whatever, until the Toronto Film Festival. And it won the People's Award, you know, that year at the festival, and suddenly they went, oh, my goodness. And then they started advertising it. So I didn't have any, I mean, I felt like it was gonna be a really good movie because we were all so good.
And we wanted it to be. But
and it was a wonderful script, and Larry's.
I think I said this in one interview too, I said, I think it was a movie of a generation, and I said, the first one would have been The Graduate, and then this, The Big Show. It's like bookends. And bookends of a baby boomer generation.
And obviously, we can't talk about The Big Show without acknowledging the significant role that wonderful music played in its lasting power. And those movies, the music, all selected by Lars Kasdan's wife, Meg, who plays the flight attendant who hits on you, by the way, in the film. Or maybe your stunt double. I don't know. Top manager can't do a plane scene. Get a stunt double. Yeah.
And Larry gave us all tapes of the music that they were interested in using, and we listened to it while we were shooting.
Oh, real quick, this is fun for everybody, and we'll wrap this up. So when there's obviously, among the most famous scenes is all the cast members listening and dancing around the kitchen. Now, they can't play the music during the scene, right? As they're shooting it, the audio will bleed in over the other sounds of the music. So, but then you guys are dancing, you can't dance to nothing, you'll dance differently, right? So what'd you have?
What they always do, on those kind of things, they always do playback. So they start the music, and you're dancing, and they turn it off. But you just keep the 1, 2, 3, 4.
But you also had little earbuds to listen.
No.
That's what they didn't give them to you.
No.
They gave them to the other stars.
And I think, but I think, you know, if you're kind of softly singing to yourself the song, we all do that anyway, don't we? Like songs you really know, you know, like the Temptation songs, right? So you can mouth it too, you know, without singing it.
That's what, according to this fake documentary, which is mostly
It's a fake documentary.
Yeah, you had little earbud, you had 1983 earbuds
Wow.
in there so you could hear the music.
It's been 40 years, but.
Yeah.
All I remember was Larry going, and I don't want anybody wearing the little, what were the little, you put put tapes and cassettes in you.
The Walkman.
Walkmans. I don't want anybody wearing Walkmans. Well, I always had one. Because I like sometimes pick music for certain characters.
Yeah, of course.
But not always, but in this case I did. And that was one of my complaints in John Reed's little Christmas movie we did. Was I go, and he won't let me wear Walkmans, and I put that on during this interview. Yeah.
Oh,
you remember
whack.
that? Yeah, do you remember that though? Yeah, I do, because
One thing, last thing I'm gonna say is that one thing that Lawrence Kasdan said, that what he wanted, apparently he announced it to the cast, maybe you may have been the person who said this, I can't recall, but that all of that intent of all the time you guys spent together before the camera started rolling was he wanted to create a situation where even when you guys were angry at each other, right, even when there was conflict on screen, that all 7 of you were kind to each other. He wanted that to exude through the screen, and I think clearly it paid off. This is just a lovely moment in the film that after you and William Hurt have the big fight, and then he didn't even say anything to you, but the next morning at the breakfast scene, he comes up and he just puts his hands on your shoulders, and you just look up and smile. I don't know, it's just a beautiful, beautiful little human moment that I love.
I think Larry really loved these characters, and they were people that he obviously knew. But that's great when a writer loves their characters, you know, as I'm sure Tennessee Williams did. I mean, even Stanley Kowalski, Big Daddy, and people like that, you know that he loved all those characters, you know, even the ones with flaws.
That's right. Tom Berenger, JoBeth Williams. Thank you.